Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the Virtual Island Summit. Thank you so much for joining this session. My name is Maria. I am the social media manager at Island Innovation, and I come from São Miguel, one of the 9 islands in the Azores, Portugal, and I am currently based in Porto. If you're not familiar with our company, which I believe you might be a bit because you are all here, Island Innovation is a sustainable development consultancy focusing on islands, and our services include events, strategic communications, and capacity building. We are trusted by our clients around the globe, and if you're interested in learning more about our work, please reach out to us using the contact information available on the chat in our website. Today, we are all here to pay attention to our speakers on the session titled Future Economy Strategies, How Islands Are Redefining Economic Success. But before we begin, we want to know a bit more about all of you attending. So you should see a poll appearing on your screen any second. So please take a couple seconds of your time. Let us know your gender, where you're connecting from. I already see lots of pop-ups in the chat. Let us know where you come from, what is your sector, and the industry you belong to. While you're taking care of that, I will read you through the session's description for us to all get ready to what's coming in the next hour. In a never-changing geopolitical landscape, islands must adapt and develop new solutions to secure a stable, prosperous future for the communities. Here, synergies exist between seemingly compounding external forces. Discover the innovative programs being pioneered across islands to respond to demographic pressures and build economic resilience. Very excited for this one. Let me take a look at the chat. We have people from St. Helena, Jersey, Netherlands, Scottish Islands. Hello. South coast of Dorset. That's my colleague Sarah. California, Estonia, Madeira, Timor-Leste, Great Lakes, USA. Oh, that's great. Do we have the poll ready? There we go. Poll is ready. We have female over male in this session, 50%, 50%, over 50%, sorry, female attending the session, mostly from the Caribbean, but very close with Europe too. And the main sectors present here today are definitely NGO, environmental services, or ocean conservation, and a couple in politics, circular economy, and even energy. Okay, let me get out of this poll here and get back to my script. Please keep your introductions coming in the chat. And you can also use, if you have any questions for our panel speakers, please use the Q&A box for any questions that you might have. And we will make sure that we can address as many as we can after our speakers are done with their contributions. Right now, I think we're all set, and I am pleased to welcome our moderator, Ashaki Goodwin, who will be taking the session away for us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Maria, and welcome to everyone. I see that we have persons from all corners of the globe joining this very exciting session titled Future Economy Strategies, How Islands Are Redefining Economic Success. And today we have a high-powered panel for you representing not only islands, but also partners in the thrust to moving countries towards economic prosperity. And let me just briefly introduce the speakers for you. We have Jeannie Cameron from the member states of Alderney. We have Hygienist Jean Leon, the Executive Director of the Development Bank for Resilient Prosperity and Ambassador at Large for the Government of St. Lucia. We have Abdullah Al-Bazai, Director of Development Programs and Initiatives Department, the Saudi Fund for Development. We have Benita Wheatley, Vice Chair of the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. And we have Guillermo Quintana from the Society for Economic Promotion of Gran Canaria. So as I said, we have representatives from different sectors, from different parts of the world, all speaking to that common theme of how do we advance island economies. And with that, I want to go straight into introducing Jeannie. And as I mentioned, Jeannie is a member of the States of Alderney. And Jeannie, I would like you to share with us how Alderney is redefining economic resilience amid demographic and geographic pressures. In your remarks, if you can also reflect for us on what small jurisdictions can teach large economies about adaptability. Jeannie, before you come in, I just want to remind our colleagues who are online with us, feel free to use the question and answer box that's at the bottom of your screen. We would love to hear your questions, love to hear your comments. Jeannie, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ashake. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeannie Cameron, a recently elected member of the States of Alderney. I'm the finance lead in the Policy and Finance Committee and on our Economic Development Committee. We have 10 members of Parliament in Alderney. I'm going to cover four things. I'm going to say a little about Alderney, where it is, a constitutional commission that we currently have underway, the economic challenges and strengths that we have in Alderney, and then lastly, Alderney's future economy and how we're intending to power that with renewables. So to start off, Alderney is a crown dependency of the United Kingdom. It's one of it's the most northerly island. It's closer to France, only 7 miles away from France, and between France and the UK. We are in the bailiwick of Guernsey. Guernsey, you have a speaker from Guernsey tomorrow, and that means that we have some of our administration from Guernsey. Our population is only about 2,000 residents. We're a small knit community island. We're self-governing in most domestic matters, but we share defence and international representation through the UK. Small islands like ours share the same vulnerabilities that many small islands face: remoteness, resource constraints, and exposure to global trends. Yet we also share the strength of resilience. Small communities adapt quickly, as we know, innovate pragmatically, and we build a strong social cohesion. Now, I mentioned that we have this constitutional commission because since 1948, after the war, Alderney has been in a fiscal relationship with Guernsey, our neighbouring partner. And for that, we pay our tax into Guernsey, and in return, they provide us with what's called transferred services: health, education, civil service support, airfield, etc. And what that means is that for around 80 years, this relationship has existed, but we have just this year, actually on the day I was elected, it was announced that we would have a bailiwick commission where the UK Privy Council will oversee what's going to happen in terms of our relationship going forward. And this relates to a lot to our economic development. The review is not about separation, it's about renewal of updating an outdated agreement. And it's going to clarify responsibilities, aligning with today's economic realities and ensuring that sustainable governance is there for the next generation. I'm also now going to turn to our economic challenges and strengths. Our biggest challenge is connectivity. You have to get to, like most islands, by air or sea, and these are very limited. Our air transport links and our links are less than they ever were even 10 years ago. we have a boat which only has 15 seats on, or 12 seats rather, and if the weather is bad, it doesn't go. For us, it's a bit of a lifeline to be able to get away for sort of hospital. We have a small hospital here, but it's a very difficult situation. Our economic challenges are that we are dependent on tourism, small services, and limited retail, but without connectivity, all of those things suffer. What we do have, though, is a massive strength in natural resources, and Alderney sits at the heart of the strongest tidal flows in the world, really. What's called the Alderney Race, the sea of water between France and our island, is significant, and it's there for tidal power, but no tidal power have we been able to successfully yet put in. So we also have potential for solar, wind, and other renewables, but currently everything is untapped here in Alderney. And our scale though makes us an ideal test bed for innovation, where projects can be piloted, proven, and refined quickly. So to move towards the future of, what our aim is to have Alderney powered by renewable energy. At the moment, we are currently completely off grid, and all of our diesel, we're diesel based, which generates the electricity on the island. We use 1.6 million litres of diesel, and 2 million litres of kerosene is burned annually. So you can see with that there is a need for us to transition to where the rest of the world is going. It creates both a carbon burden and a cost risk as the global oil price swings flows directly, and the price of electricity here is probably one of the highest in the world. So transition is imperative for us, and for islands, it's about security and resilience and the community, as much as it is about climate goals. We need to reduce the dependence on imported fuels and strengthening our stability and affordable. Alderney Electricity Limited has a 3x3 policy, which was to have 30% renewables by 2026. Well, we haven't got any, and that's not far away. So we have a strategy for a mixed plan of solar now, tidal within 2 years if the technology delivers, and a potential for wind as well as geothermal. But they all need to be backed by battery storage, because we're currently off grid. The practical steps are solar first, as I mentioned. We want to roll things out this year. The Alderney Race, the tidal area, is equivalent to 2 nuclear power plants worth of energy if it could actually get going. So we want to get commercial partners to work on that. The wider benefits, resilience, as I've mentioned, affordability, stability, and to build our economy. We want to attract more people here, especially younger people with families, to build the economy. And that's one of the things we're working on the economic development. But as I've mentioned, we've got lots of challenges in terms of connectivity, because the airport runway has not been upgraded for some years and has its own issues. So essentially for us, the big picture is energy is not just a utility issue, it underpins our future economy. Our journey shows even how the smallest of islands can chart ambitious, realistic transitions. And our goal is a resilient, affordable, sustainable Alderney, and perhaps a model, if we can get it right, for other jurisdictions of how to do a bit of all the renewables. So that's it from me, and I'm happy to take questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. And I think from my side, the thing that stands out the most is the connectivity. And I think everyone from an island can identify with that. Thank you so much for sharing. We now head over to Hyginus Leon, and Hyginus Jean Leon is the Executive Director of the Development Bank for Resilient Prosperity, but he also serves as Ambassador at Large for the Government of St. Lucia. Jean, if I can call you that, can you share with us some insights from the Development Bank? I note that it's now called the Nature Bank. And also, can you identify opportunities for regional and international collaboration and how that will scale economic innovation? Jean, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shaki. First, let me say thanks for allowing us that opportunity to speak at the Virtual Island Summit. And I recognize we have people from all over the world, which is very appropriate because what we are looking to provide is a solution to what is, I think, a global problem. The global problem we have can be summarized as four things: global inequities, ecological degradation. We have a third, which is a fractured multilateralism. And the fourth, I would say, degradation of social cohesion that is permeating the entire planet. And how does that translate into SIDS? It translates into small island economies in three forms. One, we have a lack of voice and representation. Second, we lack access to adequate and affordable finance. And third is the vulnerability and low resilience that we face is not adequately integrated within the overall economic frameworks that are used in the global space, at least for us. And so the Nature Bank is designed specifically to address those deficiencies and to be able to promote what we think are possible solutions. And so it fits neatly into the theme how small islands, how developing countries are leading the world in that particular space. And I think the first place we start is to recognize that we have what I call a fundamental asymmetry in the way we do things. One is whenever we observe a problem, that problem is seen as a system-wide problem. But when we look to solve it, we solve it as a slice. And so that is symptomatic of the way we do business, policy, and order. We tend to think of things as small pieces. And so what we have done is to anchor everything that the Nature Bank is about on a systems approach, a systems thinking into how the planet as a whole is an evolving dynamic space. And so therefore, everything we do needs to see the planet as a whole. And to be able to capture that, we do this in three fundamental ways. The first is we need to redefine the outcomes that we are interested in. Those outcomes typically in the past have been GDP focused as a measure of income, a measure of wealth of countries. So we need to move to a beyond GDP that captures not only economic, but captures social, captures environmental elements that define what prosperity is about. The second is how do we finance that prosperity? We believe that there is equally an issue in how financial flows are incentivized. And they are incentivized because we have adopted what I call nature negative, degenerative approach to economics. And so to be able to change that incentive structure, we need to be able to go into a nature positive aspect. And I say this to make the point that in our search for income, for GDP, we have done this at the expense of the planet by degrading it. And so we have never measured net positive. We are in fact in a net negative world. And finance has been incentivized to promote net negative. And what we need is to change that incentive structure to make finance net positive and to direct investments in a way that can now promote a stable ecology of the planet. And to be able to do that, we need to embrace nature as not a dead, visible item, a resource to be used and pillaged, but nature as an asset that generates benefits, net positive benefits, that can now be monetized and can be transferred in terms of deployment into the very elements of prosperity that we are seeking to do. And the third aspect that we do is, since we know the definition of the outcome, we know how it will be financed. The third is on how it is implemented. And the implementation implies that we cannot continue to do project by project by project. What we need is a chain of projects in a programmatic way. And that program actually helps to change the risk return profile, therefore more access to finance, lower risk, or conversely, better de-risking in a way that promotes that systemic view in a very different way. So that in essence is what we are looking to do. In terms of opportunities, what does that actually mean? Some islands have already started that process, and I can name things like blue bonds, like in Seychelles, or in terms of disaster preparedness and risk reduction, as in the debt clauses, say, that was used in Barbados. There is nascent markets, like, for example, in the Bahamas, where we have been using seagrass to promote carbon credits. But all of those are themselves slices of the larger issue. The larger issue is we need nature positive benefits promoting the entire planet at any one point in time. And so what we embrace and what has recently been endorsed by the European Union is we need to move from beyond carbon credits to nature credits, where we look to certify and monetize all benefits that yield a nature positive dividend. And so that whole line of nature credits is at the center of what the bank is about. And that helps to build something that our previous speaker spoke about, resilience. But not only climate resilience, it's resilience of the entire ecosystem, whether it is in the economic and the fiscal sphere, or in institutional resilience, or in broader environmental or ecological resilience, or in terms of financial resilience through the added new streams of income coming from the use of natural capital. So that gives us then, I would say, three basic ways that we can actually look to manage this. The first is what the Nature Bank has been promoting, and we would love to be able to get countries to work with us on, is the design and development and deployment of pilots that will now make this systems approach with the use of nature credits a centerpiece to the entirety of economic policy. So broadening that entire space is one way that we see we can actually promote this going forward. The second thing that we can actually embrace is that we can look to create the very issues of natural capital and the adopting of accounting standards that can now be integrated within overall policy. And by doing this, we can now get capacity built to be able to get countries to adopt this broader capital, natural capital basis as a means of how they actually promote. So I think in that basic sense, if we can see those two elements of embracing natural capital, having pilots, and building the capacity within countries to allow us to deploy and develop this effectively, that gives us the basis on which we can genuinely lead the world in a new paradigm, a new way of solving our problem that actually serves our interests to the maximum. Thank you, Ashaki.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leon. And I think for us, we loved your point on how do we treat things as a system, understanding that development is not a slice, but everything is interconnected. Thank you so much. And I want to remind all of our viewers online, please use the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen. We would love to hear from you. And at the end, we will have an opportunity to take your questions. I'll head over to Guillermo Quintana. And Guillermo is with Society for Economic Promotion of Gran Canaria. Guillermo, I know you're going to walk us through a few slides. And in that slide, I would like you to highlight for us Gran Canaria's approach to fostering a resilient but also a diversified island economy. And please share with us any examples of how successful public-private initiatives advancing things like entrepreneurship, investment, and employment, because we understand that both public and private sectors must work together. Guillermo, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shaki. Just checking the presentation, something you can see. Okay, we're on the right spot. Thank you so much for having me and for having Gran Canaria. And let me just start by welcoming you all, or pre-welcoming you to the 2026 edition of the Island Summit, which will be held in Gran Canaria. I will be trying to go through the facts initially so that you hear about what the island is about. We are far from being a small island. We like to call ourselves a medium-sized island with problems connected with having a large population over an actual physical small space. So we're moving in that scale where it's not so easy to manage all the resource constraints that we have. So the Gran Canaria, if you count the floating population, we're talking about 1 million inhabitants, and we account for 40% of the GDP of the whole Canary Islands. There's two remarkable characteristics of our economic development so far and looking into the future that streams to all the actions that we take. We have, of course, similar vulnerabilities and dependencies from mainland Spain and Europe. Specifically, but we also excel in two main core activities. We have strong tourism fundamentals, being one of the powerhouses in Spain, and tourism accounting for almost 34%, 34% of the direct GDP impact. But we also have remarkable locational and operational advantages in terms of supply chain and logistics operations. And we are growing, and the impact of renewables is growing, but the offshore revolution is still on hold. It's something we're looking to untap in the coming 2 to 3 years, waiting for the tenders to come out directly from mainland Spain and the European Union. And this is one of the things that I wanted to put in the front end of the topics. I mean, each and one of us, we need to play most of the times by the rules that we are given, not the rules that we manage to have. This is something I think we keep in common, regardless of the size of the island or the funding capabilities or the legislative setup that any of us have. We are working most of the time by non-island ruling. This is the case in Gran Canaria and the Canary Islands. We are in the European Union outermost region. This allows us to have strong exceptionalities, meaning compensatory measures, positive tax advantages, specifically for the R&D and innovation, plus other transport subsidies and tariffs. But we still need to peg to having a limited regulatory capacity, and we still need to contribute to the national budget. This has a strong impact on all the economic policies that drive us, because we need to deliver sustained growth, but also we have to secure a fair share of contribution to the Spanish national budget so that we can preserve the special measures by demonstrating resilience and actual economic activation. I mean, all the compensatory measures are based on our capability to improve our economic standard. So we're managing a complex steady state there. We need to balance that exceptionality, and we need to take measures to improve our competitive approach. One of the things that we see as a key element of where we're heading to is that we have an eco-island vision that was explained yesterday by my chancellor. I'm not going too deep into that, but it plays a lot in working out increased sovereignty and supporting clean energy transition. Working always in a mission-based approach with the support of the private and the public sector, but working hard in diversification and guaranteeing the market access. We at the Economic Development Agency would work both in the strategic view, but also in the tactical deployment of all the eco-island vision whenever it comes to having a more competitive island and better insertion into global markets. This is a bit of the matrix where we are operating. We try to have all our actions bundled within this matrix. We have operations. I'll try to go through some of them. Of 5 main focuses. We need to guarantee global market accessibility. So all measures that are enhancing our connectivity will be introduced within our scope of action. We operate in mature sectors, mostly helping the transition and supporting new value generating cross activities, mostly in tourism and logistics, as I mentioned. We support new sectors and mostly close-cut niche approach. It's generally opposed to testing. We do support, far from opportunistic gains, we do support any potential action of in sectors, including funding, wherever we can benefit from our size and us being a balanced Spanish/European population, local plus tourism in all the testing, coming from FMCG, from fast-moving consumer goods to the offshore energies that I mentioned. And of course, there needs to be a focus on talent. And we provide smart architecture and solution both for the private sector and for the public sector. There's a whole collection of resources. It's nothing sort of new, planning mostly related to funding and consultancy and infrastructure and investment. And we tend to rule ourselves by commingling all these actions within initiatives. We try not to do anything, most of the cases avoid opportunistic gains or opportunistic actions, and operate within recognizable operations and objectives and shared funds with the private and public sector. When it's all only public, there's only a public approach, then we build up temporary or consistent alliances between the different entities, and we apply the right mix of resources and services depending on what operation we have. I'll go very quickly through some of the measures. Some of our partners, we are highly focused in the connectivity enhancing measures, both in air and maritime. This involves mostly influencing anything related to the EU ETS and the Fuel EU regulation, which might be threatening our connectivity standards, but also we have a close look in anything related to the competition and the rate behavior. And then, since I won't have much time, just give me a bit of a samples of what we do. If we get to the mature sectors, what we do is we try to have an automated deep decision-making tool. We have invested a big amount of the tourism funds for the last years, because we want to have an intelligence platform for the tourism sector. There's different initiatives I have. I'll just save them for the Q&A if we are okay with that. But the whole focus is built on initiatives, put together the efforts of the different private and public operators, and most of the times looking into the public funding, whether it's infrastructure or the availability of funding, to obtain those a more resilient ranking area and a more diverse economy of the island. Yes, Shaki, all good?
Thank you, Guillermo. And I think you touched on a discussion that we need to expound on some more, and that is how public and private can work together, especially in some of the sectors that you mentioned. And I'm hoping that we have some time to further discuss, and hoping that we will get some additional questions on that as well. But thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. We now hand over to Abdullah Al-Bazir, Director of Development Programs and Initiatives from the Saudi Fund for Development. Abdullah, we want to
Hello.
hear from you. An overview of the fund's 50 years of development activity. 50 years is a long time. And you've
Yeah.
been doing a lot, especially I know of the work of the fund in the Caribbean and in other parts of the world. Also, speak to us about the importance of the fund and what direction it's going into on the development agenda for these small island countries. Abdullah, over to you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you to having me at this important summit. Let me please introduce myself to you. My name is Abdullah Al-Bazi. I'm Director of Developmental Program and Initiative Department in SFD, Saudi Fund for Development. As one of the Saudi Fund representative of this summit, I'm delegate to thank you to putting SFD a part of this event today. We are thrilled to join you for what we hope will be an informative and engagement experience. On behalf of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, represented by the Saudi Fund for Development, it's an honor to stand before you today and deliver these remarks. I would like to provide you a brief overview of development finance in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which has been providing development assistance through Saudi Fund for Development for over 50 years. The SFD has financed more than 800 projects in over 100 countries, totaling above $21 billion, regardless of beliefs or had a political agenda. We are a proud member of the development finance community and the true partners with our beneficiary countries. Furthermore, we would like to highlight that Saudi Arabia, through SFD, contributed significantly to international development efforts. In 2023, our official development assistance stood at $6.6 billion, that representing 1.01 of our gross national income, which underscores our initiatives to supporting sustainable development and aligning with the international targets for development assistance. At SFD, we support initiatives that maximize benefits. This principle is based on the idea that it is better to spend $1 on an initiative benefiting multiple sectors rather than each individual project. Additionally, SFD is creatively developing its financing solution based on the international needs and trends. For example, the Saudi oil drilling and rural development program in Had Africa, which started 40 years ago by drilling traditional wells, has now implemented solar energy in the new wells to benefit from the latest technologies. Based on Saudi Vision 2030, SFD launched SIDS SFD program in 2023. The main goal of this program is enhancing development collaboration with other SIDS countries. Since establish SIDS هذا SFD program in 2023, which means less than two years, SFD reached to the 19 countries with totaling amount up to 1.5 billion USD. As we know, the headline for the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals is fast approaching, yet many countries are not on the track to achieve them. Moreover, SFD adopted the same goals of SDGs before they were launched by the UN. If we talk about the future and the new trending now, our top 5 priority for upcoming years on which we are focusing our efforts and financial resource are food security and clean energy, climate action, water security, and digitalization. With this integrated approach, we aim to leverage of this area to increase our impact on sustainable and inclusive growth. For example, our efforts in financing a clean energy project not only serve to combat climate change directly, but also support sustainable agriculture to achieve food security, improve water management, and ensure that sustainability. We think that this is as a core element of every project we finance. Digitalization forums is a backbone of these sectors, enabling smarter and efficient solution. From precision agriculture to renewable energy management, this integrated strategy underscores our beliefs in the power of this project or this activity. How progress in one area can trigger benefits in several other, promoting a more sustainability and resilience. Finally, I want to take this advantage to encourage a borrowing country or our partners to submit their project finance application for multiple sectors under the umbrella of these initiatives. We will do more utmost to include more than one sector and engage in the protection of the climate and surrounding of this project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdullah. And I believe the common theme here is we can't do it alone. Partnerships like ones with development partners like the Saudi Fund will help us to advance these goals. And you have already proven to be a great help to a number of islands. I now want to go over to Benito Wheatley, and Benito is Special Envoy of the Premier of the British Virgin Islands and also Vice Chair of UNECLAC, the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. Benito, happy to have you with us. Please, can you share insights on how the Caribbean and other island regions are preparing for future economic shifts? And I think you'll agree that we are seeing some of those economic shifts right now. And offer your perspective on how islands can influence and benefit from within the multilateral processes. And you will have a good eye on that being the vice chair of the UN ECLAC. Benito, over to you.
Well, thank you, Madam Moderator. Good afternoon to all. I would like to begin by acknowledging my fellow panelists. It was very good to hear the various projects and initiatives that you're working on. I wish to initially focus on the British Virgin Islands in my capacity as the government's special envoy, and then speak a bit more widely about the Caribbean and small island developing states more generally. The BVI has a robust economy based on financial services and tourism. Our blue economy has enormous potential, which we have yet to unlock. However, these sectors remain vulnerable to external shocks, as well as external political pressure in the case of financial services. While the cost of higher tariffs, inflation, and general economic uncertainty is clearly a problem, the single greatest threat to our economy is climate change. We know this from experience because of the devastation inflicted on the BVI in 2017 by Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Right now, we are at the height of the Atlantic hurricane season. There is a very real risk that the BVI could be further impacted by another hurricane or extreme weather event of some kind. Tropical Storm Erin already visited us and left our islands without electricity for several days. Flooding was also quite substantial. Another storm is on the way that's currently making its journey across the Atlantic. Let's pray it goes out into the open ocean and dissipates. At the same time that we are facing the threat of hurricanes, we are also experiencing the worst sargassum swell that we have ever seen, driven in part by the warming of the ocean. Our beaches are in horrid condition. It does not seem that this problem will be going away anytime soon. The worsening climate risks to the Caribbean diminishes the region's attractiveness as an investment destination, especially at a time when small island developing states desperately need foreign direct investment to grow their economies. How we mitigate some of this risk is fairly well understood. Governments in cooperation with their partners must invest in resilience to give investors and the private sector sufficient confidence to invest their capital in their economies. This involves building climate resilient public infrastructure, strengthening the critical systems upon which the society operates, and putting the necessary insurance and other risk instruments in place that would support rebuilding in the event of a disaster. The problem for the middle and high-income countries of the Caribbean is access to capital to do some of these very things, particularly the building of climate-resilient public infrastructure. The international financial system has not treated SIDS fairly in terms of fair access to the financing they need. Gene is working hard to help address this problem, as we heard, and he has my full support. The Alliance of Small Island States has tackled the issue at multilateral level at the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development that was held in Seville, Spain, back in June. In principle, it seems some progress was made in terms of at least encouraging commercial and development banks to lend to SIDS at discounted rates based on their vulnerability. This is something that was also called for in the Antigua and Barbuda agenda for SIDS, agreed at the SIDS conference last year. We shall see if this adjustment will actually be made. One of the things that SIDS must do is maintain a strong coalition with the Global South and other partners to maintain international pressure for these types of changes to the international financial architecture. These relationships should also be leveraged to secure investment from non-traditional sources. Our partners in the Global South do have capital. Latin America, Africa, and Asia are particularly important to SIDS growth and development in this regard. Finally, I want to just highlight the 4 key areas I think SIDS can focus on to position themselves to economically succeed in the future. The first is sound climate resilient infrastructure to smoothly facilitate commerce. This is fairly straightforward. For example, the BVI is expanding our airport to accommodate larger aircraft so that more visitors can enjoy our shores. The second is affordable, sustainable, clean energy. A number of islands such as Dominica and St. Kitts and Nevis are making very good progress on the development of geothermal energy. In the BVI, we are now able to power our most northerly island, Anegada, entirely from solar energy and battery storage. These investments will drive down energy costs for households and businesses, making for a more attractive investment environment. Third is connectivity. If SIDS want to benefit from the digital economy, they have to be technologically connected to the rest of the world. We can offer a wider range of services if we are connected and have the technology to deliver. Fourth and last is high-quality human capital. To economically succeed, SIDS must have a well-trained workforce that is highly competent and tech-savvy. This is perhaps the most worthwhile investment in the future that any island can make. With that, Madam Moderator, I will end my remarks and thank Island Innovation for the kind invitation to sit on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benito. And you made a comment about connectivity, both from the side of infrastructure, technology, and what it means for island economies. And I think that this highlights the other part of your discussion, the need for financing. How do we get financing to move forward with that connectivity across the board? Benita, thank you so much for sharing with us. We have a number of questions in the chat box, and we do have some time to go through a few. And I'm going to be calling on our panelists to address some of these. Jeannie, I'm going to start with you. Could you speak more about the Renew Institutional Governance Agreement? And what's the role for politicians and people?
Yes, I'm very happy to do that. I think one of the things I perhaps didn't explain very well was we are a UK Crown dependency. We're not an overseas territory, which means we receive absolutely no funding from the UK at all and no access to anything from them. The King is our kind of the Crown is the head of it. So this Bailiwick Commission, as it's called, to review the constitutional relationship between in the Bailiwick of Guernsey was kind of started from Guernsey to review that. It was a temporary agreement in 1948, because I don't know if many people know, but after the war, where Alderney was the only island that had full German occupation during the Second World War. And so after the war, it needed to be rebuilt. It didn't have any money or anything at all. So it said it would pay its income tax. We have no taxes apart from a small income tax to Guernsey, the neighbouring island, in return for services. However, this review is important now because I think a lot of people, both in Guernsey sort of feels we don't want to take care of that island to the north, but we kind of say we're paying our tax, but we can't get our airport done. We can't, that we do have e-gambling industry here, and that's very, very effective, but we only get a small amount of that. The most of the revenue and jobs and everything goes to Guernsey. So the little bit of money we get from that goes into our capital infrastructure, but we just never have enough. It's just doing roads, it's doing harbour. We can't do the airport. So I think this review will be, because we can actually get to know how much we put in and how much Guernsey gives back, and really review this fiscal arrangement to see if it's working or not. So I hope that, and I thought it was interesting, Benito's mention of the airport infrastructure. Our airport is a 44-foot container, and it's been like that since the 80s. We have nothing, even though we're so close between France and the UK. We're trying to build an economy, and we really want to get rid of the diesel and all of that, but we can't get to renewables because we have no money and we can't, take it further. But we have, as I mentioned, the best tidal, the Alderney race in the world. So we're open to that in the future. And I hope that explains to the questioner about why the Bailiwick Commission is so important to us going forward.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Guillermo, I'm going to come over to you. There's a very interesting question here. Does Gran Canaria use digital twins and Strat ML in its digital intelligence?
Thanks for the question. It has been a topic over the course of last years. We've been engaged in one of the projects that we have, or initiatives, which is the Marine Maritime High Tech Incubator. That is, let me just explain it a bit, and then we go to the specific projects. That is an example of a public-private partnership where we've activated more than 2.4 million euros in supporting startups and companies doing innovation or innovative projects with companies operating within the port and the blue economy. Most of them are providing services or introducing models related to AI, data analytics, and also anything related to the offshore revolution, floating energy. Digital twins have been a thing in there. They have been a thing there, and there we have opened up conversations. We didn't have ourselves, if that is the question, a full-on digital twin managing all the interconnections related to the maritime activities or the energy transition in the island. So that is something that might or might not come, but there's been smallish projects within the port sector to actually take or help the public sector take decisions related to investments and traffic. In our specific case, and I think it's a specific case for all the islands, we don't really have that of a big funding problem, but we still have limited capacity in terms of space, in terms of the co-inhabitants, or how different operations cohabit within a port or within an airport, speak more of the port, and therefore there's been that digital twin, but on a specific operation and specific decision making within the port. It is something to be thought, whether we need to expand it on island level, could be interesting, but of course there's a trade-off and a balance there, whether we actually invest in doing things or invest in overthinking about how we do things. I don't know if I'm getting to the
for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Guillermo. And it leads to another question in the chat that goes over to Jean about how the Nature Bank proposes to use things like digital twinning as part of that integrated systems approach that you mentioned, Jean. But also, while we have you on the mic, I would want you to touch on, there is a bit of a debate going on in the chat box about that need to rethink economic success beyond GDP, and how can investments in nature-based solutions be integrated in national accountants. I'd love to hear from you there, and then we can, I think, take one or two more questions for our other panelists. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tashaki. Maybe if I can be brief here. The first is that what we have today as GDP not only is inadequate from the notion of what is success and what is prosperity, but it also limits the very thing that is the central problem. We do not have access to finance, because that finance itself is based upon GDP. So the moment you open into a beyond GDP frame and you start seeing nature as an asset that yields benefits, and hence why we call it nature positive, benefits that do not destroy the planet, but benefits that regenerate and conserve the planet in the process, then what you end up with is a new set of revenue streams. And I say new because it means you're not accumulating debt as you're doing now, but you are using that revenue stream to deploy for the benefit of that prosperity that we are talking about, both in the social, in the institutional, and in the economic sphere. So that's an entire paradigm shift that says we can finance the development suitably defined that we need by simply creating a new asset class. And that's fundamental to what we are trying to do. Now, whether we go to your first part of your question, whether we use digital twins only facilitate a move from pure physical produced to now a wider set of productive capacity. So, for example, you can use digital twin concepts to create digital tourism, as distinct from physical tourism that now utilizes the principle of conservation because you're not destroying it through the process of regular tourism, but you can still allow for the benefit of that tourist service to still provide revenue and income. So digital twins has a role to play in all of the spheres that we are talking about, and it can provide for revenue streams that do not exist now in the physical space. It is how we conceptualize this. And the only way we conceptualize it is by recognizing GDP limits the boundaries of what we do. So we have to go beyond GDP to open up that space for digital, non-digital, etc.
Thank you so much, Jean. And I note that we are over time, but I just wanted to give Benito and Abdullah, if there were any final things they wanted to come in on, whether it's the access to finance, the need for more financing, the need for more partnerships to help us advance some of these things that we have discussed today, including connectivity, renewables, etc. I'm going to start first with Benito, and then Abdullah, we can give you the last word.
Thank you, Ashaki. I just want to support my brother Gene in what he's saying. We are going to need to apply a lot of pressure on the international system to make adjustments. This requires, as I mentioned, strong partnerships among the global South, who are the ones mostly affected by these problems. We have to exert that pressure to get commercial institutions as well to adjust. But even more importantly, we need to partner with them so that Gene's Nature Bank can get the seed funding that's necessary so that we can establish our own institution for long-term lending. Because in the end, that is what we have to do. We cannot simply rely on traditional partners. So we must come together as a global South, where we can find partners in the North, global North, that is fine, but we must accept that international conditions have changed. We are not going to get the resources we got before because now traditional partners are diverting the resources to conflicts elsewhere and other priorities. That is the reality. So let us adjust accordingly.
Thank you so much, Benito. Abdullah, any final comments from you? Okay, maybe Abdullah has left us. Okay, thank you to our distinguished panelists. I think we heard several things today, but the common thread as island nations, despite whatever governance arrangement we have internally, there are certain things that we need to propel our economies. One, partnerships. Two, not just financing, because more money, yes, but adequate financing. How do we utilize things like our digital technologies our natural capital as well? And how do we look at the non-traditional sources to really advance our economies? I think a number of the persons joining today, they want to stay in contact with our panelists. They want to explore other opportunities. So I would say let's keep the dialogue coming. We want to thank Island Innovation, that team, for putting together this panel at a time when we needed to have this discussion, not just with governments, but with all partners at the table. Thank you all for joining and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you to our moderator and our speakers in this panel. Before I let you go, I wanted to give you a quick announcement. It was already mentioned in the session, but we will be taking the Global Sustainable Island Summit to Gran Canaria next year. After this year's experience in St. Kitts and Nevis, it is time for the Macaronesian region and Europe to take the spotlight. It will be held from April 20th till the 23rd of 2026, where we will be discussing solutions and advancements in sustainability. All attendees of the Virtual Island Summit get an additional discount on the early bird ticket prices right now, and you also have on your emails a link to a giveaway of 1 out of 3 tickets. We have one last session today before we wrap up day 3. And it's coming up in an hour, entitled Climate Action Highlands and Islands Film Screening and Q&A. Don't forget to join us in 1 hour's time. And thank you again so much all for joining us. Have a wonderful day.